Jefferson F. Davis was born on June 3, 1808. Davis's parents immigrated to North America from North Wales in the early 1700s. He greatly looked up to his older brother and served in the American Revolutionary War. In 1811, he moved to Mississippi with his family. Davis attended West Point in 1824. After he graduated from West Point, Davis was the second lieutenant assigned to 1st Infantry Regiment. Davis was stationed at Fort Crawford and Prairie du Chien in Wisconsin Territory under Zachary Taylor, a future president of the United States, in 1829. In March 1832, he returned to Mississippi. He still was in Mississippi during the Black Hawk War. At the conclusion of the war, Colonel Taylor assigned him to escort Black Hawk to prison. The chief noted that Davis treated Black Hawk with much kindness.
After finishing his time in the Army, Jefferson Davis fell in love with his commanding officer's daughter, Sarah Knox Taylor. After asking for permission to marry, Taylor refused. Against Taylor's wishes, he married Sarah. After 3 months of marriage, Sarah died and Davis was also severely ill. In the month following Sarah's death, he slowly improved, although he remained weak. In 1844, Davis met Verena Banks Howell, who was 17. She was the granddaughter of Richard Howell, who was the governor of New Jersey. They married on February 26, 1845. During the time, Davis was persuaded to become a candidate for the House of Representatives and began canvassing. Jefferson and Verena had 6 children together. After taking a break from politics, Davis became a senator. Later, he was also appointed Secretary of War.
Davis was the first choice because of his strong political and military credentials. He was expecting to be chief of the Confederate armies. Jefferson sent a commission to Washington in order to pay for any federal property on Southern soil, although Lincoln refused to meet with the commissioners. During the first battle of the Civil War, Davis faced the most important decision of his career. He and his cabinet decided that if the federal garrison surrender was refused, they would use military force to stop reinforcement. In June 1862, Davis assigned Robert E. Lee to the Army of the Northern Virginia, the main Confederate army. Davis decided the Confederacy would have to fight with a strategic defense. On April 3rd, troops under Ulysses Grant aimed to catch Richmond. Davis escaped with his cabinet to Danville, Virginia.
After the war, Jefferson Davis was captured by the Union on May 19, 1865. Davis was imprisoned in a casemate at Fortress Monroe, located off the coast of Virginia. After 2 years of imprisonment, Davis was released on bail of $100,000. In December of 1868, the federal court rejected a motion to nullify the indictment, but the prosecution dropped the case in February 1869. That same year, Jefferson became president of the North Carolina Life Insurance Company in Memphis, Tennessee. Jefferson was reelected to the Senate again. He was refused the office in 1875, having been barred from federal office by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Davis' reputation among ex-Confederates were restored by the book The Rise and Fall of the Confederate Army, and by making numerous stops to attend lost cause ceremonies. On November 6, he went on a trip to visit his plantation at Barfield. While in New Orleans, he was caught in a sleety rain, and on a steamboat trip upriver, he had caught a severe cold. On November 15th, he left Barfield to return to New Orleans, where Verena Davis, Jefferson's wife, met him on the river and gave him medical care. They arrived in New Orleans 3 days later. Jefferson remained in bed, but was stable for the next 2 weeks. However, just when he appeared to be improving, he lost consciousness on the evening of December 5th and died at the age of 81 at 12:45 a.m. on Friday, December 6, 1889. His funeral, held on December 11th, was one of the largest that the South had ever seen. Davis was first entombed at the Army of Northern Virginia tomb in Metairie Cemetery, but Mrs. Davis decided to move his remains to Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond.
Jefferson Davis was an American soldier and a statesman, and became the president of the South during the Civil War to 1861 all the way to 1865. During the war, he took charge of the war plans, but was not good enough to defeat the powerful North. His efforts failed to get attention from any of the other countries. He didn't really pay attention to the failing economy of the South. Davis grew up in Kentucky in a farm and grew up on his older brother's large plantation. Jefferson Davis attended West Point Academy to become a military leader. He fought in the Mexican-American War as a colonel of a volunteer regiment. He also served Secretary of War and a Democratic United States Senator from Mississippi. He owned a large cotton plantation in Mississippi, which he owned more than 100 slaves.
It's a revolution, I suppose.